All right, you guys. So we're going to be looking at factoring trinomials. This is our third day. So the first 2 days, you were pretty much taught the technique. And now this day, we're going to take each of those techniques, put them in the same problem, and start practicing now factoring in terms of what it means to just be able to factor any problem whenever you've been given an example. All right, so I have negative 3x squared plus 45x minus 78. All right. Now, what I have here is I do have a quadratic. So it starts with x squared, then goes to x, then goes to a number. So I do have a quadratic. Okay. Which means my instinct may be to say, okay, let's jump in and do an x puzzle. Okay. Now, that's not entirely wrong. So you can factor it this way. But now you need to ask yourself from today forward, your very first question to yourself, okay, should be, is there a GCF? Do I have a greatest common factor? Can I divide all of these numbers by a common number? And do all of these have a variable in common? All right, so they do not have a variable in common, but I can divide by a value. Okay, and the value that I'm going to divide by, I'm also going to make it negative. Okay, because anytime that very first term is negative, we really do like it if you would divide by a negative number. All right, so I'm going to divide everything by negative 3. So that's going to give me a negative 3 outside of my parentheses. And then inside my parentheses, I'm going to have 3 answers. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is just positive 1, and that leaves x squared. 45 divided by negative 3, negative 15x. Okay? And then 78 divided by 3. Now, if you don't know that off the top of your head, okay, you got to do your long division. Okay, so if I want to divide by 3, 3 goes into 7 2 times. 6, bring down my 1, 18. 3 goes into 18, 6. All right, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive 26. Okay, so that's the first step in factoring. Okay, then your next question to yourself should be, do I have a difference of squares? And that would be inside the parentheses, do I have a difference of squares? So a difference of squares would only have 2 terms. So I skip that step. Then my next step would be to solve my X puzzle. All right. Now, the negative 3 is just going to hang on to the next step. So negative 3, and then I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be writing in these parentheses. Okay, so let's just focus on the parentheses for right now. So I have 26 on the top, negative 15 at the bottom. All right. So I know 1 times 26, 2 times 13. Those are my only options. Okay. And I want to get a negative 15. Well, in order to get negative 15, I need a negative 2 and a negative 13 because a negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative 2 plus negative 13 would be negative 15. So that's going to be x minus 2, x minus 13. Now, because I did not multiply, notice I didn't even talk about multiplying A times C because it started with a 1, okay? There's nothing to do here. So this is my final answer. Make sure when you go to type it in or when you go to write your next step, don't forget that GCF. That GCF has to be part of your answer because if I were to check your work, I would multiply this together and then multiply everything by negative 3 to check your answer. All right, so that means now I'm going to go here. I'm going to type negative 3, parentheses. I can type in the x minus 13 first. Remember, that part doesn't matter, and then x minus 2. So it's okay if you type in this answer, okay, and I have this answer written down, okay? Submit my answer. Yes, And there we go. And you can see here, he even agrees that my greatest common factor of -3 was a good choice. Okay? All right, so let's go to a new problem. Okay? All right, so now we're going to take 5x to the third minus 5x squared minus 100x. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask myself, do I have a greatest common factor? Okay, and I do. Okay, I can divide everything by 5, and they all have x's. So I take the smallest exponent, which is 1, and say that's my GCF. So I have a GCF of 5x. So 5x is going to go on the outside. And now I'm going to divide, and I should have 3 terms on my in my parentheses here. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. Now I subtract my exponents. 3 minus 1, so x squared. -5 divided by 5, well, that's -1, so I'm going to put the negative sign. 2 minus 1 is just x. And then minus 100 divided by 5 is 20. And then the x, 1 minus 1 is 0. All right, so now I'm going to look inside the parentheses. Do I have a difference of squares? No, okay, because I don't have 2 terms. I have 3 terms, which means I move on to my x puzzle. So here's my x puzzle, -20 at the top, -1 at the bottom, and I did not have to multiply, okay? All right, so that's going to be -5 and 4. -5 gives me -5 times 4 gives me the -20, and -5 plus 4 gives me the -1. All right, so 5x parentheses x minus 5 times x plus 4. All right, so I'm going to go here and I'm going to type that in. So 5x parentheses x minus 5 parentheses x plus 4. Submit my answer. Yes, I got my green check. All right, so that is how you do the first set of questions in your Delta Math assignment. Good luck.